Hello everyone and welcome to Fifth North. Today I'll be introducing you to my new daily driver, and I'm going to be showing you guys what I think is the first modification that you should do to your manual car. Did you guys think I was going to leave it stock? Most definitely not. It's going to get modified. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. That is right, I cannot leave good enough alone. Now, I have modified literally every single car I have ever owned, every single motorcycle, pretty much every single vehicle that I've ever put my hands on. So obviously this car is going to be modified too. Now, I had every single intention of filming this video in the garage with the Civic to show you guys or to introduce you guys to my new daily driver. But unfortunately, at this moment in my garage, it's 122 degrees. And well, 122 degrees is not good for me or for my camera, so we're gonna have to make do here in the studio. Plus, if I was filming in there, I'd be super sweaty and gross, and I don't want to put you guys through that. So with that being said, let's talk about my new daily driver. So my requirements for a daily driver were as follows. I did want something that was kind of fun, not necessarily super fast, but still fun for daily commuting duties. I did need something that was gas efficient. At the end of the day, it is for commuting. It's not a race car, but for commuting and for getting from, home to work. So obviously gas efficiency was going to be a key factor. And then the last thing that I wanted for sure, actually the last two things that I wanted for sure were, one, I wanted a factory turbo. In my opinion, it's a little bit easier having built both, naturally aspirated cars and turbo cars and cars that were NA that became turboed cars. It's just a lot easier to start with a car that's already turboed from the factory and modify from there. So I really wanted a factory turbo, and then most importantly, and this is absolutely a non-negotiable feature, I did want the car to be a manual. Now, as you guys probably know, manual cars are less and less common these days, so definitely my pool of cars automatically kind of shrunk down with wanting it to be a manual. So in comes a 2024 Honda Civic Si. It has a 1.5 liter turbo from the factory, has about 200 horsepower, which is not, again, super fast, but it is fun. It's fast enough to be fun. It does have a manual transmission. In fact, the Si only comes in a 6-speed manual. And then also to boot, I'm averaging about 35 miles per gallon combined. So with a lot of bumper-to-bumper traffic, to get 35 with 200 horsepower and all the fun that I am having, I definitely can't complain. Now, I do have a pretty long history with Hondas. I have had other Hondas in the past. I've also enjoyed a lot of Honda motorcycles, so definitely happy to be, back into my kind of groove with having a Honda vehicle. So what I mentioned earlier is I can't leave good enough alone, and quite frankly, I don't think I should have to, because good enough is good enough. But if I have the option to have great, why not go after great? So in this case here, there is an option to go from good enough to great with modifying the shifter assembly and the shift knob. But then also too, I get that satisfaction of having a little bit of customization and having my car be just that much different from a factory car. Okay guys, so here's the deal. I love many different types of modifications, but mods that I can interact with daily, i.e. mods that I can see, feel, or touch every time I drive the car, those are usually going to be my favorite mods, as you kind of get a constant reminder of the improvement that was made with that upgrade, and obviously that it was money well spent. One such mod is upgrading the factory shift knob. So here's a quick sneak preview. Today, I'll be installing a new shift knob from Acuity Instruments, and before I dive in too deep, I do want to clarify this will not be a full step-by-step instructional video, as I don't like to be redundant, and I do think that Acuity offers some really good install instructions, but rather, I will give you my opinion, my thought process, and overall review on their products. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in and get all of these factory parts removed, that way I can do the install. Alright, so like I said, I like modifications that I can interact with daily, and I would argue that the very first modification that one should do is replacing the factory shift knob, as you are obviously interacting with it constantly while driving the car. Now here's the thing, the factory shift knob on the Civic Si really isn't that bad. It's honestly quite good for a factory knob. Well, it's quite good until it isn't. Here's what I mean by that. I live in Dallas, where summers get really hot and the winters can get quite cold, and weather mood swings are far too common, so having a metal shift knob isn't exactly ideal. Yes, granted, there is some leather on it, but still, in the summer it's far too happy to give me 30-degree burns, and in the winter it can be downright cold to touch, which again makes it hard to drive, which again means it's not the best design. Now, the team over at Acuity Instruments, they fully understand understand this, which is why they offer upgraded shift knobs of many different types, styles, colors, and shapes. Now, the one that caught my eye right away was the black ESCO insulated shift knob. Let me go ahead and break down that decision real quick. So I think the black color looks really sleek and matches the overall scheme of my car. Car itself is black, obviously, and then the inside is going to be black and red, so that part makes sense. The ESCO shape feels really good in my hand, and it does give me confidence in my shifting, so again, the shape makes sense. The last part, and certainly not the least part, is the fact that it is a insulated shift knob. So yes, the temperature of the knob still does change somewhat with the weather, but it's a lot better than many other materials. It never gets too hot, never gets too cold, and it definitely has never given me 30-degree burns like my factory shift knob has. Granted, I'm exaggerating there, but you know what I mean. It's never been hot enough to where it was uncomfortable to touch. I've actually used this shift knob anywhere from 20 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to about 104, and still I felt fully comfortable using it, whether it was hot or cold outside. So the one thing I do love about video editing and video production magic as a whole is you do have the ability to kind of jump and advance time. So perfect example here, I am showing you guys footage of me installing the shift knob and the boot collar upgrade, but in reality at this point I've actually had a chance to use the shift knob and the boot collar for roughly 10,000 miles in my daily commute. So what that means is, rather than giving you my initial impression or a very short-lived opinion on the product, I've really had a chance to get more of an educated opinion from the fact that I have used it for, again, roughly 10,000 miles. All right, so now that I have removed the factory shift knob and the clip, plus all the required panels and pieces, let's go ahead and install the new shift knob. And while I am doing that, let me cover some details about the knob itself. So it's gonna be 185 grams in weight. It does have a 40 millimeter diameter with a 70 millimeter height. In my opinion, it's perfect for my hand. I do love the painted gear pattern on top, and do keep in mind this is actually hand painted, and to top it off, it actually has a 2 millimeter or 2+ millimeter deep engraving, so the painted parts are actually below the part that you're touching, which does mean that it won't just wear off or rub off like it would if it was simply painted flush with the top of the knob. So really nice touch there, putting the paint a little bit lower to make sure it lasts a really long time. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the knob itself is insulated, but it does actually have a stainless steel core, and this is going to mean two things. One, it does retain weight. Like I mentioned, it is 185 grams. Without that steel core, it would be far too light, and so to me it wouldn't shift as well. And then two, it does mean that it's going to be very durable, especially the threads, so they're going to be durable and be there for a strong and long-lasting installation and obviously use. Now, speaking of durability, unfortunately OEM parts often have to cut corners, or more importantly costs, wherever they can. So case in point, the boot collar from the factory is going to be plastic, and though it works great when installed at the factory and never touched, once it starts to be removed and messed with, well, the plastic really just isn't that strong, and it is kind of tough to work with at times. Because of this, I also decided to not only upgrade the shift knob, but also to upgrade the boot collar as well. In this case, I did decide to go with the aluminum shift boot collar upgrade in the red color. Once installed, it's very clear that the all-metal construction of the Acuity collar is superior, will last longer, and is easier to use and install overall versus the OEM knob, and obviously it just looks better. All right, now before we move on with the rest of the video, I do want to talk about how this car is going to be modified. Now, when I think back to when I was younger and unfortunately dumber, I didn't always use top tier parts or parts that were actually tested and proven to work. I simply modified the car and kind of hoped for the best. So now that I am a little bit older and a little bit wiser, granted the wiser part is debatable, but what I am going to do going forward is ensure that every part that goes onto this car and any car that I build going forward, that it is going to be a top tier part, and more importantly, that it is going to be a part that has proof behind the concept. What do I mean by that? Well, in the case of Acuity Instruments, if you're not sure if they test their parts, go ahead and take a look at all the race cars they run on tracks all the time, and all the testing that they do with these race cars to prove that their parts are working, and to obviously find ways to make them better and better as they go. So going forward with my car videos, if you see me talking about a brand, a company, or a part, do know that I have already verified and tested the part and the brand, and that I would not be talking about it if I did not recommend it. I couldn't stop at just the shift knob and the boot collar in this video, so when I did notice that Acuity also offers their podium oil cap in satin black for the L15 engine, well, I had to upgrade that as well. So this obviously is a better looking oil cap than the generic stock one. I also do prefer the fact that it's 6061 T6 billet aluminum construction, the overall profile, and the fact that there's different ways to remove it just in case you're not able to get it off by hand. Again, it not only looks good, but it will stand the test of time and perform well too. Now, as you can see, the install is complete. I am wrapping up, putting the car back together and cleaning up the car. And again, the install instructions were really solid and straightforward, making the install fairly easy and without issue. Overall, I think the ESCO insulated shift knob in black paired really well with the red upgraded boot collar. They do look really good together, but more importantly, they function really well. Now, I did mention the magic of editing earlier, so now we do fast forward roughly 10,000 miles, and the cool thing is the knob has actually changed color just a tad, and really not changed color, but it became a little bit more glossy. It had a little bit more of a dull finish when it was brand new, and so now it's a little bit more glossy, a little bit more shiny, and this is obviously expected as it has been interacting with my palm and obviously the oils in, my skin and things like that. But with that said, there are absolutely no signs of wear and tear. The quality is definitely there. Now, minus the extra shine in the knob, both the knob and the collar look brand new, which is really impressive considering that it's been roughly 10,000 miles. I have definitely been impressed and have enjoyed both the shape and the functionality of this upgrade, especially on those hot summer days. So now as we wrap up this video, I do want to point out that everything so far has been quite exceptional. I'm really pleased with the quality of the install instructions and how easy they have been to follow. I'm really happy with the shift knob and the boot collar upgrade, as well as how good the oil cap looks. Now, with that said, I figured why stop here? Acuity does offer a full Stage 2 shift kit for all 11th gen Honda Civics and 5th gen Integras, obviously for all the manual variants. And I figure, why not take it one step further and make the shifting experience that much better? So be sure to join me in the next video where I am actually going to install the full Stage 2 shift kit and give you my overall feedback on that experience. All right, if you've gotten this far, make sure you hit that like button for me. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Obviously, turn on notifications. That way you do know when this next video comes out. And with that being said, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.